Hello. You'll notice it's a different location today. I'm actually speaking from Schiedam, in the Netherlands. It's a large town near Rotterdam. So different location. Anyway, the subject I want to talk about is a deeply controversial one, but I've always taken the view that just because something is contentious or controversial or a taboo subject doesn't mean that it should be not spoken about, especially in free Western societies that accept free speech as an absolute tenet of our liberty. So I do believe that nothing is off the table, basically. This video is largely a response to an article I've just read in the Eye, and I'll show you this. It's by Alice Jones. It's in the Eye newspaper. Big cut right there. Reality TV. I'm not going to read the whole article because it is quite lengthy, and I don't really see the necessity of doing that. But it's an article in the Eye newspaper by Alice Jones. So that's just a disclaimer. I'm not reading the whole article, so I don't want people accusing me of nitpicking sections because I'm making it clear that I'm not reading the whole article. And you're very welcome to do that. But what I will read out is absolutely what she has written. Um, so first of all, I'm going to touch on some of the things that she's discussing. Incidentally, I should say I've come across Alice Jones editorials before, columns I should say before, and she very much comes across as quite a hardline feminist. So there's been many areas I've strongly disagreed with her. Reading this article, there's aspects I actually agree with. There's other aspects I don't agree with. Basically, she's complaining about a new program that's out, that's sort of reality TV. Monday evening, 9 p.m. BBC Three. I can't comment about the program because this is Sunday, so the program hasn't been broadcast yet. I won't watch it because, well, number one, I'll be here, and number two, I that's an area I actually share her discomfort on. Um, and the program's called Is This Rape? It's supposed to be a context where it's sort of set up in a reality TV show. The scenario is two young people at a house party, they have sex. The young man, is accused of rape. So that's the sort of scenario that they're setting up, and it's a debate about is this rape or not. Now, um, she goes on to sort of talk about how I think what she's driving at is that she's frustrated that there is debate around the issue of consent. What she's arguing is it should be black and white. And I'll read out a little bit of this, like I say, and if I can, I'll put a link to the article. Okay, certainly people appear more confused than ever before. Take the Warwick University student George Lawler, who was so incensed upon logging into Facebook and discovering that he had been invited to a consent class rather than a banterous fancy dress party that he was moved to write an article about his ordeal on a student website. To be invited to such a waste of time was the biggest insult I've ever received in a few years. Really? That seems unlikely, George. He accompanied his tantrum with a photograph of himself holding a sign saying this is not what a rapist looks like, and she describes, in her opinion, that was a very dumb thing to do. And she's making the point that rapists don't wear balaclavas and hide behind bushes. Um, she also says that there was another student in Cardiff, or a man in Cardiff actually, who complained on Facebook that he was disheartened and offended when a woman started running away from him as he walked fast behind her on a dark night. I think a lot of men have been in that situation where they've been walking behind a woman on an evening or a dark night, and if I certainly can speak for myself, I've never had a woman run away from me, but I have been in that situation. I mean, Alice Jones isn't a man, so she can't claim to understand what it's like for a man. And of course, her article is completely biased, but I'll get more into that in a minute. It is uncomfortable for a man to walk behind a single woman at night because you there's that instinctive feeling of am I going to be accused of something now? Um, that's not to say that all women are false accusers, of course not. But I think any honest man would say that it's an experience that makes him uneasy. Usually, what I do is try to cross to the other side of the road or use an alternative route, simply because the situation makes me uncomfortable. Now, I don't blame women for feeling uneasy because sexual assaults do occur. This is a reality. And the few scumbags that do that give other men a bad name. So it's not really either party's fault. I don't blame women for feeling uneasy, and I don't blame men for feeling uneasy. Alice Jones is utterly biased, so she maybe I mean maybe the man in Cardiff overreacted a little bit. Maybe he shouldn't have put it on Facebook. But on Take Control, this is another quote, who reacted to the Labour MP Jess Phillips' rejection of the debate for an International Men's Day by sending her a barrage of foul rape fantasies online. When Phillips spoke out about the abuse, she received yet more messages questioning whether she'd been abused in the first place. Um, okay, and there is I'm going to touch on some of the statistics she provides in a minute. That thing about Jess Phillips, I wasn't familiar with that until I read it. Okay, firstly, I utterly condemn the vile messages she received. That is a cowardly and despicable thing to do to any woman. But, and this is a big but as well, and it's not a condemnation, a condoning of those messages because, like I say, they're utterly reprehensible. You know, sending rape messages to a woman, I think that's sickening. But what Alice Jones totally failed to negate is that Jess Phillips rejected the democratic debate on men's rights. That to me is equally abhorrent, frankly. Um, I mean, those rape messages were abhorrent, but the vast majority of them are pathetic little cards who wouldn't do it. So, to me, the fact that she rejected the democratic debate is pretty abhorrent as well, and she should be criticised for that. But what I would say to those men who respond to hardline feminist um, sexist attitudes, to respond to that with rape threats is absolutely beyond the pale. And as a man, I utterly condemn them. It's totally the wrong way to go about things. And unfortunately, there has been a response to some feminists by some men who respond back with aggressive rape threats. This is utterly stupid, and all it does is damage the men's rights movement. So, as a fellow man, I unreservedly condemn that behaviour. Now, I want to get to the main point of this video. Um, Actually, I should sort of quote her statistics here. Um, when one considers that 1 in 5 women between the ages of 16 and 59 has experienced some form of sexual violence, including 1 in 3 female students, then consent classes come to seem a necessity. If nothing else, it may teach people that 90% of rape victims know their attacker, that of an estimated 85,000 rapes in England and Wales every year, only 1,070 end up in a conviction. Freshers Week, however, is too late. Consent should be studied with sex education at school, and the earliest suitable opportunity. Then one hopes no one ever needs to ask himself the question, is this rape ever again? Okay, I'm going to talk about where I agree with her. I'm going to talk about where I disagree with her. Firstly, regarding the statistics, and I have to assume that she's taken this from Home Office or, uh, you know, um, she doesn't say where those figures are from, but I've no reason to disbelieve that. I mean, this does happen, and unlike some MRAs, I do acknowledge that there is a problem out there. I think some MRAs are guilty of downplaying this and pretending or implying that there is no problem. There is. In the end of the day, there are scumbags out there who wouldn't think twice about hurting a woman. This is not something that's made up by feminists, it's a fact. So I think some MRAs don't do themselves a service by downplaying that. On the other hand, and also regarding the statistics, we do have a shamefully low conviction rate in proportion to how many women have experienced this. I mean, if that figure only cases each year, that's utterly abysmal. My math isn't wonderful, but that works out at probably less than 2%. It's a disgrace. And it is the one area of the law where women have a raw deal. Um, I know men can be raped as well, but this is talking about the statistics for women. Okay, so here's the thing. What Alice Jones is driving at is that it's black and white, no means no. Um, I agree with that as well. If a woman clearly says no, then it is no. That's straightforward. But this is the thing, and this is something that Alice Jones is totally overlooking. There are grey areas. The simple fact is there are grey areas, and it shouldn't be controversial pointing that out. Here's the scenario, and it's a very, very plausible scenario. You have two young people or two people. There's a lot of focus on young people, but this could be different age groups. They're on a night out. Both parties get morbidly drunk. We have a big drinking culture in this country, in the UK, I should say. I'm in the Netherlands now. Both parties get extremely drunk, and let's say that the woman has cheated on her boyfriend. Okay, it happens. Now, let's say she regrets that, she feels guilty for what she's done. She needs to have an alibi, so she accuses the man of rape. Now, no doubt someone like Alice Jones would say, oh, that never happens. You're a hateful male who's trying to downplay rape. No, we have to accept that there are grey areas, and simply discussing those grey areas is in no way the same as trivialising rape. As a man, I abhor rape. I think it is absolutely one of the most heinous crimes because not only is it an act of violence, it has an enormous impact on the victim's mental health for years afterwards. So it is a heinous crime. But for Alice Jones to suggest that there should be basically no debate, um, I mean, she's advocating consent classes, but there's no indication that those consent classes will have any sort of dialogue or debate. It sounds to me like a case of basically making all young men feel guilty. Um, I do agree that it needs to be part of education. I do agree with that, but I don't agree with this notion that whenever a woman says it's rape, it is rape. That is dangerous because it will definitely damage due process. And there have been examples in the United Kingdom and in other countries of innocent men being falsely accused. This is a fact. Something that, just as some MRAs trivialise rape, there are feminists who trivialise cases of false accusations because it does happen. I'm going to round up the video quite soon, but the fact of the matter is there are grey areas. And what irritates me is that if anyone points that out, they are accused of trivializing rape. It is not the same thing at all. Because when we establish what rape is, any decent person would utterly and unreservedly condemn it. And any man that does try to justify rape, like say something like, oh, she deserved it because of what she was wearing, that's abhorrent. There's never an excuse for rape. And it isn't just men, incidentally, some women condone that. It's disgraceful. I mean, if someone I cared about, um, a female relative or a female friend, if she went through that experience and people blamed her, I would be furious. There's never an excuse for rape. But defining what rape is important. And that's something that people like Alice Jones need to accept. Why? Because we're talking about justice. We're talking about truth. Of course, it is important to define. Um, so when you have grey areas, then saying no means no kind of negates the complexity of that situation. What about when it becomes her word against his? How do you establish truth in that case? I happen to believe the only way is a lie detector test in those situations. And I know that lie detectors are not concrete, but I can't think of any other way. I really can't think of any other way when it is her word against his. Um, it is essential that all the evidence is brought forward. And as I've said in similar videos before, it is essential that someone who alleges that they are a victim is treated with compassion, is treated in a sensitive manner, but it is equally important that the truth is revealed. I also believe it is disgraceful that male defendants are named um, before they've even been found guilty or not guilty. That's disgraceful. If they've been found guilty in a fair trial, fair enough. And that's legitimate because it could warn other potential victims from staying away from a convicted rapist. But where I really strongly disagree with Alice Jones is her assertion that this is simple. It's not. It really is not, because you do have clouded areas, especially when alcohol is involved. You also have a situation, say for instance, two people are making love. Let's say it starts off amicably. Let's say the man is close to penetration or close to ejaculation, and suddenly the woman turns cold, but she doesn't physically say no. Now, what's a man to do? Is he suddenly to stop because he's not sure? Maybe he should. Um, I mean, speaking personally, and this is not to get into very personal areas, but I would always be absolutely sure the woman is comfortable. I would ask her throughout, but this becomes a very difficult area when it becomes a case of, well, does this mean that every time a couple have sex, it's going to be a sort of case of every 5 seconds the man has to say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I imagine some women wouldn't even like that because it would kill the romance. It would kill the romantic aspect of it. Um, I do think it is important for men to be sure that they have consent. Um, I mean, personally, I would feel uncomfortable making love to a woman who's making no communication. To me, that would be give me alarm bells in the same way as if she was saying no. But body language is extremely important. Um, so yeah, I'll conclude here. I agree with some aspects of what she's saying. I agree that rape victims do deserve more justice than they currently get. Um, and I agree with her on ease at this reality TV show. Although she's sort of contradicting herself, because she's saying that there should be consent classes. But if that's what the program is trying to advocate, she's sort of contradicting that. Okay, so let me know your thoughts. I'd like to hear male and female opinions on this. I mean, women, my female viewers, um, do you think it would kill romance if a man, and you don't have to answer this, it's a personal question, but if a man's constantly saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" in the middle of sexual intercourse, does that kill romance? Personally, I think it's common sense. It's kind of about body language. Does she seem comfortable? And if she seems uncomfortable, then stop. Um, and of course, another point, of course, no means no. But that is a misrepresentation of what always happens because it isn't always a clear case, especially when alcohol is involved. I mean, I find it very hard to argue that a woman is definitely a rape victim if she can't remember. I mean, this is a harrowing experience. Anyone who's been a rape victim will testify how awful it is. I find it hard to believe you wouldn't remember something like that, regardless of how drunk you were. So the idea that, oh, I was very drunk, but maybe he raped me, that doesn't sit comfortably with me. I mean, to jail a man for years on a maybe, that's definitely questionable areas. And a final point, just in case anyone thinks I'm biased because I'm a man, I'm not. I believe that there needs to be more um, sentencing to reflect the number of crimes that are being reported. I mean, it is not a case that 85,000 women are lying, of course not. Um, I do take anything Alice Jones says with a pinch of salt because I know from her previous columns she is a pretty militant feminist. There's been other articles I've seen she's come out with outright sexist language against men, so that's why I'm taking her article with some caution, but I'm also being open-minded, and there are some things that she's saying I agree with. I'm going to write that in a response to that, and more or less say some of the things I've said in this video. Okay, let me know your thoughts. Thank you.